in the week, lows reaching around the high single figures, so a much fresher start to the day. And that leads us into mostly settled conditions. Once again, plenty of blue skies, plenty of sunny spells, and temperatures creeping into the mid-20s once again. So warm in any sunshine, but a different feel across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, a return of the cloud and the heavy blustery showers. And always feeling a little fresher here, temperatures widely in the mid-teens, but otherwise another warm and pleasant afternoon.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
You have a very nice accent, and I always thought but obviously I'm totally wrong. I've learned something already straight away.
I mean, we've interviewed together on countless occasions. I thought you would have picked up on my English accent.
Oh no, you're just changing it now. You're changing it a bit here.
Yeah, I'm just putting it on for you, mate.
Well, I'll tell you this, Chesney. I think it's amazing that we're talking about a tour next March for a man like you, and that shows you the extent to which you have to be organised to do these things. I thought like you're advertising this for this month or next month. Why the need to go so early?
Oh no, it's just to give people plenty of advance notice. You know, these days life comes up very fast, doesn't it? So I'm always touring, Eamon. I've actually got some headline shows coming up next week. I'm in Cardiff and Southampton, but we've just announced this headline tour for next year. So I thought I'd get it out there and let people know in advance. You know.
Good.
And Chesney, just looking at your Instagram now, I mean, you've got a sense of humour, haven't you? Because you've been putting videos out there saying people think I'm a one-hit wonder, but let me tell you, there'll be a lot more songs than just the one that you're most famous for.
Yes. Contrary to popular belief, there are other songs. So looking forward, I've got a new album out right now, Ellie, and it's all been very, very well received. I'm so honoured and grateful for that. And so, yeah, I'll be performing some of this new album out on the road soon. You guys should come.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Wednesday, the 2nd of July. I'm Emily Carver.
I'm Tom Harwood.
This is the first Prime Minister in history to propose a bill to save money who ended up with a bill which costs money.
What won't help control the costs, and that is voting to keep the broken system.
Well, the Prime Minister refuses to rule out tax rises or guarantee the Chancellor's future as she appears visibly upset, Rachel Reeves that is, during Prime Minister's questions. Is this the end of the road for her?
Just extraordinary scenes in the Commons there. But elsewhere, Palestine Action is set to be banned today. But the Home Secretary is under mounting pressure to scrap the plan as UN experts and hundreds of lawyers warn it risks turning protest into terrorism.
And a baby boom, but with a twist. New data shows 4 in 10 babies born last year had at least one foreign-born parent. What could this mean for British identity, social cohesion, integration, future policy, and the rest? We'll explore the implications.
And is the government becoming the food police? Labour's new obesity crackdown could see restaurants forced to report what you order, all in the name of public health. So is this smart policy or far too many steps towards a nanny state?
I think the latter, Tom. And just what happened when Tom took on some brazen tube fare dodgers yesterday afternoon in London? It's an outrage, isn't it, Tom?
Absolutely. I think today in Parliament will be one of those days that we look back in years gone by, in years to come, and think this is one of the defining images of this government. A government that appears to have lost control, a Chancellor who can't manage the finances, the backbenchers in such rebellion that even relatively modest spending control simply cannot pass the Commons. I mean, was this the day that the Chancellor frankly lost her job?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that it looked like to many of us that Rachel Reeves either hadn't slept for days or had been crying before she entered the chamber. And then we see a picture of her with what looks like a tear rolling down her face as Keir Starmer refuses to guarantee her job till January, was it?
Yeah.
Not even till the next election. Rachel Reeves is in a very tricky position. Now, some of you will have absolutely no sympathy at all for her. There's been a lot of criticism levelled her way, rightly, for some of the decisions that she's made. Not a nice thing, though, to see someone in that state in the House of Commons for whatever reason it is. But does she have to go?
I mean, it's just actually sad. It's sad to see her there trying to compose herself. Colleagues up in the press gallery were saying her bottom lip was quivering. I mean, and you had the Prime Minister there. You had the Prime Minister there refusing to say that he'd keep her in her job, sitting right next to her. Sitting right next to her. It just looked cruel on a human level.
Well, I mean, do people actually have sympathy, though? I mean, how many U-turns have there been? How many decisions have there been taken? National insurance hike, ideological tax hikes on things like non-doms and private schools that have made no financial sense for this country at all.
And yet, when it came to non-doms, the Chancellor has been talking about you turning on that, of course. I think, like, what people need to...
Don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing,
What
Tom.
people need to think about, though, is that Rachel Reeves is someone who's more on the fiscally conservative side of the Labour Party. Now, that doesn't mean she's a fiscal conservative, far from it. But if she's replaced by someone else, you go from someone who actually wants to find some cuts in some areas, like benefits...
No, she told us...
...to someone that does not want to find any cuts at all.
She told us, along with the rest of the Cabinet, during the election campaign, that don't worry, we're going to sort everything out by taxing those evil private schools a little bit more and making sure the non-doms don't get to keep all their money in other countries. OK, fine, that's going to fix everything. It didn't. No taxes on working people. Oh, wait, national insurance up and... taxes now due to go up further in the autumn budget. And yes, that does lay on her shoulders now.
I think it's fairly cowardly of a Prime Minister to be using the Chancellor as a human shield to some extent.
It does look like that.
I mean, the two of them made these decisions together, and now it looks like, for political expediency, the Prime Minister might be jettisoning his Chancellor. I mean, like that does seem like a fairly cowardly thing to do. I
mean, I wrote this. This is what happens when you're over-promoted and totally unfit for the job you're given. Is that harsh? Or would you agree? Let us know. gbnews.com/your say. But here are the headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. 5 minutes past one. The top story this lunchtime. Sir Keir Starmer has faced his first Prime Minister's questions since a Labour rebellion forced a major welfare U-turn, giving Kemi Badenoch a chance to go on the attack. Well, the Conservative leader called it a humiliating climb down and accused the Prime Minister of weakness.
After last night's humiliating U-turn, we know he cannot control his MPs. They're cheering now, but you signed the amendment. You signed the amendment. Over 100 people signed that reasoned amendment until the bill was completely gutted. He said that he would take the difficult decisions, but isn't the reality that he is too weak to get anything done?
Well, Keir Starmer hit back, blaming the Conservatives for the state of the welfare system.
Broke it. And It's the same as the NHS. What did they do? They broke it. Same as the economy. What did they do? They broke it. They broke everything that they touched. And now she describes the broken system that we are trying to fix. We're fixing it. We're clearing up the mess that they left, just like we're clearing up the NHS and the economy.
You're up to date with the latest news. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Westminster.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 6 minutes past 1. Now, an extraordinary day in the House of Commons. Historic pictures, I would argue, this afternoon, as the Prime Minister refuses to rule out sacking his Chancellor.
Yes, it all unfurled in the Commons. Tears were seen rolling down the Chancellor's face during what became a very dramatic session of PMQs.
Well, Kemi Badenoch, the Leader of the Opposition, pointed out that the Chancellor, in her words, looked absolutely miserable during the session.
Now, of course, this comes after the government's big climb down on the welfare bill. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says Keir Starmer has made a series of humiliating U-turns.
Well, joining us now is our political editor, Christopher Hope. Christopher, you were there in the chamber as that all unfurled. This does not look good for the Chancellor, and frankly, many people are saying it was rather cruel of the Prime Minister to say what he did as she sat next to him.
Well, of course, the Prime Minister was answering questions from Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader, Tom, and she has said in terms there she looks absolutely miserable, which is clear from the TV camera shots we've been showing on GB News. The Chancellor did look miserable. Now, there's been a statement from a spokesman from Rachel Reeves in the last few moments. We're told by the Treasury it's a personal matter, which, as you'd expect, we're not going to get into. The Chancellor will be working out of Downing Street this afternoon. There's a briefing now going on of journalists when no question the journalists will be asking about the future of the Chancellor, because the PM in that session there didn't say that she'd still be here in January, as asked by Kemi Badenoch. The answer was she won't be, about Kemi Badenoch. I've talked to a senior minister just now who has seen the Chancellor, and I've been told by that person she's totally fine. So we don't know whether it was an illness, an allergic reaction. Is there some sad news? There's some personal news, and of course everyone's entitled to privacy. Rampant speculation that is she going to be moved? Is there a reshuffle coming? As far as according to the Treasury, they're saying she's working out of Downing Street this afternoon. I should say it looks like the markets aren't certain. The position of the Chancellor is absolutely crucial to this country's economic health. It's very important that I think that the number 10 clear up the future of the Chancellor as soon as possible. I think we'll be getting more news on that shortly from this briefing with the PM spokesman.
Chris, just to be crystal clear, the government's saying that this was a personal matter for the Prime Minister. I mean, for the Chancellor, I'm sorry. We have heard previous governments' spokespeople give similarly couched responses that don't necessarily mean what the implication of that response is. The very personal matter that they're referring to could, of course, be the Chancellor is worried she'll be sacked.
It could be. I don't think it is. I think the Chancellor's position is safe, and we're trying to get confirmation of that from Downing Street. As I say, we only have this statement that's been given out moments ago. I'm searching my WhatsApps when I'm talking to you, Tom and Emily. To repeat, though, the Treasury says this. She's upset. It's a personal matter, which, as you expect, we're not going to get into. The Chancellor will be working out of Downing Street this afternoon. I'm waiting for the briefing to finish upstairs to bring you more news on what number 10 is saying about that. As soon as I can do that, I'll bring it to you straight away, Tom.
Well, it could be that it is simply that overwhelmed by the job she has facing her. She now has to find a way to grab back £5 billion that was going to be saved through the changes to this welfare bill. She wasn't expecting this. Was she? Christopher, we'll have to leave it there, but Christopher Hope, political editor there. Well, yes.
Yeah, it's always worth taking a breath there, to be honest, because the scenes were absolutely extraordinary. But joining us in the studio is the economics editor at The Spectator, Michael Simmons, and the Labour peer, George Fawkes. George, you've been around in politics for a bit.
Yeah, a long time, 40-odd years, yeah.
Normally, when we see a senior politician, a tear drip down their face in public, we saw it with Theresa May when she resigned, we saw it with Margaret Thatcher when she was forced out. I mean, it's generally around someone leaving office, not just sitting next to the Prime Minister.
You look more worried than the Chancellor did, if I may say so. I don't know why. But GBNews, you've got it in for the Labour government. You've got an agenda to attack the Labour government. Let's put it into some perspective. Do you remember Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng? Do you remember the chaos when interest rates went up and 47 days did she last?
49.
49 days. Oh, I'm doing her a disservice. And now today, Matt Hancock is appearing before the COVID tribunal to try and explain why he put people who'd got COVID into nursing homes.
With respect, that's a total deflection from the issue at hand.
No, but it's a major issue.
We've just watched the Chancellor after a terrible night last night.
Why are you not...
It was a terrible night.
No, but why are you not covering... Why are you not covering Matt Hancock giving evidence?
This is the government, right?
Yes.
Prime Minister's questions, a big deal, surely you'd agree. For the Chancellor, after a dreadful night for the government, where the Prime Minister has been forced to backtrack on a key policy, for the Chancellor to be pictured looking absolutely terrible, miserable, the Prime Minister not backing her position up, it is something that is worth noting, don't you think?
Yeah, noted.
And talking about, this is a woman who's making decisions on behalf of the British taxpayer.
And then move on, because put it into some kind of perspective. We had 14 years of total chaos, really under every Tory Prime Minister.
Wasn't that chaos meant to stop?
Yeah, well, but I say, now there's this major issue happening with Matt Hancock appearing before this tribunal to explain why hundreds of people died during the COVID epidemic because he put them into...
George, we're going to have to interrupt you because we've got some breaking news. We can go to Chopper, our political editor, Christopher Hope, in Westminster. What can you bring us?
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Emily. Sorry for breaking back into your discussion there. I can confirm Number 10 says Rachel Reeves has not offered her resignation and will not be sacked. A spokesman has told us moments ago the Chancellor is going nowhere and she's got the PM's full backing. There's also a statement that we were reporting earlier, we're now confirming from the Treasury. The Treasury say it's a personal matter which, as you'd expect, we're not getting into. That explains why the Chancellor looks so upset during PMQs. The Chancellor will be working out of Number 10, Downing Street, this afternoon. So just to confirm there, Number 10 saying that she has not offered to resign, to be quite clear, and also the PM has full confidence in her, even though he wouldn't say that when challenged to by Kemi Badenoch at the dispatch box. And just finally, on Liz Kendall, she's a Work and Pensions Secretary. She wasn't sitting at the PM's elbow. You might expect that, given that pensions and benefits were dominated that session with the PM. She was standing somewhere away from the PM, but the PM spokesman says she also has, the PM, has confidence in his Work and Pensions Secretary. So as things stand, the Chancellor's remaining where she is, and so is the Work and Pensions Secretary.
Well, thank you very much, Christopher Hope, for bringing out that breaking news that the Chancellor has not offered her resignation, despite some speculation, that she's not been sacked, despite some speculation.
Good news.
And the Prime Minister has his full confidence in her.
Absolutely.
Although, George...
So do I.
Tony Blair had full confidence in Peter Mandelson until he didn't.
No, we had a similar problem on welfare when I was in government with Tony Blair. And Gordon Brown was Chancellor. Gordon didn't resign. He went on to become Prime Minister. Yeah. So I think Rachel Reeves is a potential Prime Minister of the future.
When there was a rebellion in 1997 and there were controversial welfare cuts...
Yes.
You managed to pass the bill. I mean, the thing about last night is that Keir Starmer stripped out all of the savings from the bill in order to pass
this bill will get through. All the positive things in the bill are going to get through. And then...
all the spending but none of the cuts.
And then, well, you see, you move from one thing. First of all, you say that all these changes are absolutely necessary. And then you say, but how are you going to pay for them? If you were brilliant, why don't you answer that question? How would you pay for them?
Well, number one,
how would you pay for them?
£5 billion from the welfare budget.
How would you do that?
In-person assessment is a really easy place to start.
Oh, I see. Well, that's reform policy. I mean, have you noticed the reform MPs? Have you noticed the reform MPs are being very quiet at the moment? They're not saying anything about this.
Hang on, we're jumping around a lot here. The government wanted to take $5 billion.
We're jumping around because you want to keep on a particular agenda.
Let's bring Michael Simmons here for some of the economics, because we're talking about the economics of all of this. We're talking about how much it costs. So, Michael Simmons, you are the man with the numbers, economics editor at The Spectator. Now, is it not the case that the government with this bill were trying to take £5 billion off the amount we spend on these benefits?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think the government was actually trying to do the right thing here. They were doing it in a bizarre way. They've clearly handled it terribly, and I think their plans didn't go far enough. But what we've got is a bill just for sickness and health benefits that's scheduled to go up to £100 billion, which we just cannot afford. If these reforms had gone through, they would have taken just shy of £5 billion off that. But now we're not going to get any of that savings. And the IFS are saying that it actually might end up costing more than where we started.
The irony here is that the Chancellor was the one that was trying to make these savings because she doesn't want to raise taxes in November when the budget is expected. Clearly doesn't want to raise those taxes. But there's no other way to do it. She's up to the hilt with her borrowing limits, and her backbenchers are almost forcing her into the position where she has to raise taxes.
Yeah, listen, I've actually got a great degree of sympathy for the Chancellor because she knows this. She's trying to avoid this, but her backbenchers are deluded. It was reported that one MP apparently said last night, I don't understand why there has to be tax rises. It's only a few £1 billion. But, you know, the bond markets...
We don't know which Labour MP that was.
The bond market's already at a level where they're not going to tolerate, you know, increased borrowing. She's not going to stray away from her fiscal rules. Taxes are going to have to go up, and she's going to have to square that.
Michael, you're a decent guy. How does this compare with the Liz Truss catastrophe?
Well, listen, Liz Truss, I don't think was a good Prime Minister fiscally either, but she's not the Prime Minister anymore.
And her Chancellor.
Yeah, I don't think her Chancellor was very good.
Weren't they? Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's a difficult job, isn't it?
Of course it's a difficult job, but this is where we are today.
On TV and make
this is our money, British taxpayers' money being spent, and they want it spent wisely. Now, Rachel Reeves, OK, so what's she done well then? OK, so winter fuel payments, that's been a bit of a disaster. Family farmers tax, deeply unpopular. National insurance increases. National insurance increases, which have not exactly been a good thing for small businesses, have they? And for bigger businesses, for that matter. Private school fees, that's not raising any money. And non-dogs, well, that's being U-turned.
They've brought in money which is being used to help the health service. The waiting list has gone down spectacularly because we're using a lot of the money...
OK, so NHS only?
No,
that's the only thing that matters.
No, NHS priority, and rightly so. Because by putting money into the NHS, we're going to save money in welfare because people are more able to work.
Michael, is one of the problems here that unlike in 1997 when there was 4% growth going into that government, there's zero growth. There's no growth. There's no money.
No, there is.
And Lord Fawkes is right. Liz Truss found a great deal of problem, as did Rishi Sunak, as has Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. Frankly, as will the next government too. Yeah. We've got a very high spending state, the highest tax burden since the Second World War, and frankly, a population. It's not just about the backbench Labour MPs, it's also about public opinion that does not want to abide any sort of tax, even universal welfare, for a very wealthy cohort of society. I mean, there are people who are much richer than you or I who are being given free winter fuel payments, and the Chancellor couldn't even take that away from them.
You've hit the nail on the head. And this all started with the pandemic and the lockdowns. If you look at public spending, it was sort of trickling along, and then when COVID came along, it jumped up, and the public, I'm sorry to say, have decided that they're happy with a state this size. But if you look at polling, when they're asked who should pay for that, they say, well, taxes should go up.
Not me.
But definitely not on me, which is where Labour's line not to tax
maybe the newspaper owners who are living in Monaco or other tax havens, maybe they could contribute.
But this makes nowhere near enough difference.
Maybe Nigel Farage of the £1 million on top of his salary that he gets, including some from here, from GBNews, maybe he could pay a bit more tax.
45%
Maybe he could pay a bit more tax.
Hang on.
Maybe he could go to Clacton occasionally and be an MP. Maybe he could come to Westminster and be an MP.
Why was it OK for Tony Blair to say we're not going to raise the top rate of tax above 40%? He was asked consistently throughout his premiership, throughout the 10 years he was PM, people on the left begged him to raise the top rate of tax, and he said no, we're not going to go above 40%. We're going to make sure that people do pay their taxes, but we're not going to become a sort of a high tax economy that pushes away talent and pushes away entrepreneurship. The top rate of tax was 5p lower in the pound under Tony Blair than it was under the Tories, than it is today.
So what are you suggesting?
What I'm suggesting is Tony Blair was right, and actually subsequent chancellors have all been wrong.
Well, I mean, that's an argument, yeah, absolutely. But I would put tax up. I mean, I don't think, honestly, these people are going to go abroad.
On who? Nigel Farage and who else? Who else is paying more tax on deal?
I think some of them are threatening to go abroad, these multimillionaires. But they want to go to Wimbledon, they want to go to Ascot, they want to go to all the...
You can do that without being resident here.
If they all stayed here and the top rate of tax was 100%, it wouldn't touch the sides for the type of spending we have for the triple lock, for what we're talking about, health and disability benefits. If the public seriously wants that to be sustained...
Where would you suggest, Michael? How would you...
Well, personally, I would like to see a smaller, more efficient state where we reform the benefit system and encourage people back into work.
That's what we're doing. That's exactly what we're doing.
If that is not going to be the case, as this rebellion seems to suggest, then the only way to pay for it is to put taxes up on low and middle income earners, and what government wants to do that?
But we've kept the part of the bill that will encourage people to go back into work. They don't have to, if they go into work...
But you've created a massive incentive for them to stay on in capacity.
If they go into work and it doesn't work out, then they don't have to go through it all again, all the assessment again. We're reforming a lot of the system to make it easier for people to go into work.
And yet it's still going to cost £100 billion. It's going up by £13 billion in the next 4 years.
Are we all getting sicker?
Well, some people are, yes, they are. And that's why we're putting lots of money into the health service. Because over the last 14 years, the health service has deteriorated.
Well, I'm looking forward to
the
improved health service cutting that bill by 100%. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Labour peer George Folks, fantastic to have you, and also, of course, Michael Summers from The Spectator.
I'll come back again.
Oh,
absolutely.
I hope so.
Let's do it. But my goodness me, this is a busy day of news here on Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up, including Palestine Action is set to be banned in Parliament today, but pressure is mounting on the Home Secretary to back down as UN experts and hundreds of lawyers warn it risks turning protest to terrorism.
Yes, is that right? And new data shows 4 in 10 babies born last year had at least one foreign-born parent. What does this mean for social cohesion, the future of this country, and, of course, policy? We'll discuss.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why We're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 26 minutes past 1. Now, members of Parliament will vote this afternoon on whether or not to prescribe Palestine Action as a terror organisation.
Yes, of course, this comes after activists from the group sprayed red paint on 2 UK military jets just last month, and 2 members were arrested yesterday for blockading the entrance of an Israeli defence company's UK headquarters.
Well, if the ban is upheld by Parliament, supporting the group publicly, or indeed privately, could mean up to 14 years in prison.
OK, well, joining us now is Editor-at-Large of Tribune, Carl Hansen. Carl, thank you very much. So should MPs vote to prescribe this organisation?
No, of course not. It's very important to remember that Palestine Action are a non-violent organisation, and they've been taking direct action to oppose a genocide that the vast majority of the British public opposes. And whether you agree with them or not, placing them in the same category as violent terrorist groups like ISIS or neo-Nazi gangs is an outrageous attack on political freedom and our freedom of expression.
No, it's a fair point, Carl Hansen. We're going to put that to our next guest, Lord Wolney. Carl, thanks so much for joining us there live from Istanbul, and apologies for anyone about the slight quality there of that line. But Lord Wolney joins us in the studio. What do you make of the point that clearly Palestine Action is not a terrorist organisation in the way that we think of terror of groups that kill people?
Yeah.
I mean, clearly they're a nuisance organisation, but a terrorist organisation?
There are those clear differences between those terrorist organisations who have been much better known over the years. But first of all, it is not right to say there is no violence involved here. There are serious trials that are ongoing at the moment involving sledgehammer attacks against security guards, but also, when you look at the official definition of terrorism within the 2000 Act, it makes clear that damage to property can be considered terrorism if it is done to further a political cause. And that is what has been happening in the main over a period of 5 years now. Actually, I think one of the questions for government and our legal system is, why has this taken so long? And in a sense, I have a level of sympathy which says it's always going to be difficult to know when the judgment comes. For an organisation that is committed systematically to criminal sabotage, at what point do they trigger the terrorism definition? I think, and I'm been pushing the Home Secretary since my review on this issue last year, that there should be a new category, what is effectively a category of prescription for criminal protest, which would not define organisations as terrorists, but nevertheless would enable the police to much better stop their activities, which have been going on literally for years.
Now, there have been MPs who've expressed support for this group, not least Sara Sultana and also the former Minister of Scotland, Humza Yousaf, who've expressed support. So under this law change, they could be liable for spending some years in prison if they were to say that out loud past the prescription date.
Sure. Well, I mean, it is a really serious matter to express support for a terrorist organisation. And so anyone, lawmakers absolutely included, have got to think very carefully, assuming that the votes go through in the Commons and the Lords, and that we do reach formal prescription by the end of the week. And
does that not make you feel slightly queasy? That someone could today say the words, "I support Palestine Action," and not face any sort of legal sanction, but potentially tomorrow could say the words, "I support Palestine Action," and face a police investigation. I mean, I kind of fall down on the side of free speech here.
But this is not. We need to understand, and free speech in the UK has never been a completely untrammeled. An untrammeled right. It comes with certain responsibilities, and when it is in furtherance of criminality, when it is incitement, then that has always contravened the law. And actually, where I think part of the problem comes is that we need to be clearer as lawmakers, as the government, but also, all of us talking about this in society, where the line comes between peaceful and lawful protest and criminal sabotage and disruption. And Palestine Action supporters are very deliberately pretending that this is all a bit of paint, it's all about freedom of speech. It's not. It's about criminal violence, and that's why the sanctions are going to be applied.
OK.
Now, before you go, just in a previous life, you were, of course, a Labour MP. And
an advisor in Downing Street.
And an advisor in Downing Street.
And the Department for Work and Pensions.
Quite a lot, haven't you?
You know the trials and tribulations.
Sure.
And I just wanted to get your thoughts on what happened last night. I mean, utterly extraordinary scenes in the House of Commons.
Yeah.
And how that's flown through into today with what we saw with the Chancellor.
Yeah, what we've seen over the last few days and today is appalling. And I hope that Labour MPs, who's, of course, I sympathise with their views on wanting to protect disabled people, but they need to understand the gravity of what they have done. This is the Labour government's economic credibility and political credibility that is at stake. They didn't come to office on a wave of enthusiasm. We know that the public voted them in without being, entirely convinced of their ability to change things. And very soon they could lose track of the political agenda and the narrative now and hand it over to forces that are going to be much more damaging to all of the causes that they care about.
Yes, I do wonder there's an element of denial over the level of their mandate. But Lord Walney, thank you very much indeed. Peer and former Labour MP and lots of other things. Thank you very much indeed. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Get your thoughts in. We've got lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, new data shows that 4 in 10 babies born last year had at least one foreign-born parent. So what does this mean for Britain's future? That's to be discussed after your news with Sam.
Very good afternoon. More from Westminster shortly. First, though, the other stories making the news this hour. Detectives have passed new evidence to prosecutors that could lead to further charges against Lucy Letby, the child killer nurse, already convicted of 7 murders. It follows the arrest of 3 former bosses at the Countess of Chester Hospital for suspected gross negligence manslaughter. Ofgem has opened an official investigation into the substation fire, which caused a catastrophic power outage at Heathrow Airport. A report's found issues were first detected 7 years ago, but not fixed, leading to chaos for over 270,000 passengers. 343 small boat migrants arrived in UK waters on Tuesday, bringing the total for the year to more than 20,000. In just 3 days, 1,800 migrants have made the illegal journey to the UK. Donald Trump says Hamas has agreed to a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza, but Israel has not confirmed the deal. Trump warns Hamas will only get worse if they don't take the deal. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After reaching 34.7 degrees Celsius yesterday, it is going to be a fresher feeling day for all, though we are expecting some heavy showers with a Met Office thunderstorm warning in force across northeastern parts of England. And it's all thanks to these frontal systems sweeping their way eastwards across eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern England, but also at times across the far southeast too, where once again we're expecting some heavy, possibly thundery showers as we head towards the afternoon. And there will be a mix of sunny spells and showers across Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, but for many areas it is going to be a dry and bright afternoon, feeling a lot fresher, not quite as muggy, but still warm in the sunshine, highs reaching around 26 degrees Celsius. Then to finish off the day across Scotland, yes, we are still expecting plenty of showers, still plenty of cloud, particularly across eastern parts of Scotland, but turning a little brighter from the west as we progress through the evening. Similar across Northern Ireland, a mix of sunny spells and showers, but the heaviest of those showers across northeastern England should start to ease away, leaving a few more clearer skies to finish off this afternoon. And elsewhere across England and Wales, it should be fairly similar, largely dry and bright, and remaining dry through most of the night. Any showers across Scotland, once again, easing away and staying dry as we head through the early hours of the morning, but we will start to see a return of the clouds, some showery outbreaks just starting to move into western Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, but for many staying dry, and it's definitely not going to feel quite as muggy as it has done earlier in the week, lows reaching around the high single figures, so a much fresher start to the day. And that leads us into mostly settled conditions. Once again, plenty of blue skies, plenty of sunny spells, and temperatures creeping into the mid-20s once again, so warm in any sunshine, but a different feel across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, a return of the cloud and the heavy blustery showers, and always feeling a little fresher here, temperatures widely in the mid-teens, but otherwise another warm and pleasant afternoon.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. In South Lanarkshire, caution is urged due to surface water affecting driving conditions. The A470 by the rail bridge near BTWSE Coed is closed for maintenance with diversions in place. On the M61 slip road to the M60 southbound, 10-minute delays are anticipated due to congestion. West Berkshire's M4 eastbound between junctions 14 and 13 faces disruption from a traffic accident, with all lanes closed and 50-minute delays expected. And on the trains, the Gatwick Express has no service, while Avanti West Coast reports disruptions between Stoke-on-Trent and Macclesfield. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
OK, well, it's now 38 minutes past 1, and I should think that the biggest story this afternoon follows on from PMQs, the Prime Minister's Questions time. Yeah. Quite extraordinary scenes, Tom.
Yeah. Chancellor appearing to cry. Now, we don't know why she was crying. The Treasury say it's a personal issue, but it's worth noting it happened at the same time as the Prime Minister said that he refused to back her in her job through to January.
Yeah. Now, since then, the statement, spokesperson has said that, no, he does back her for the job and does stand by her. Interesting he won't say that on camera, though, isn't it? Yes, it's very interesting why he would do that in the House of Commons with all the cameras on and all the eyes on him and his Chancellor. But yes, the spokesperson for Rachel Reeves has said it's a personal matter, which, as you'd expect, we are not going to get into. The Chancellor will be working out of Downing Street this afternoon. So they're trying to sort of, you know, let it go. But whether it will, I don't know, because how does it look? I mean, a Chancellor in a bit of a state at a time of incredible importance.
Yeah, and jeopardy for the government, because let's not forget, for every pound that they simply cannot cut out of the ballooning welfare budget, that's an extra pound they're going to have to add to the tax bill come the next budget.
Yeah, has she been hung out to dry? Has Rachel Reeves been hung out to dry here by some of her left-wing backbenchers who don't seem to think that we should cut anything off our ballooning welfare bill, even though there's not enough money to go around as it is? Or is she the author of her own misfortune with all of this, with some pretty awful, bad decisions taken along the way?
Well, do get your thoughts in. gbnews.com/yoursay is, as ever, the way to get involved, and we'll be speaking to more people in just a few minutes about what exactly has gone on in Parliament today. I think it's going to be one of the defining images of this government.
Absolutely. Well, in other news, new figures revealed today that there is a dramatic shift in Britain's population underway. 4 in 10 babies born last year had at least one parent who was born overseas.
Yes, in 2024, 40% of live births were to families with at least one foreign-born parent, up sharply from 35% just 3 years earlier.
Now, the rise follows a post-Brexit loosening of immigration rules, which saw a record 906,000 people move to the UK in the year to June 2023.
Well, joining us now is Associate Editor at the Daily Sceptic, Laurie Wastall. Laurie, thanks for joining us. I suppose the big question here is this because there are more foreign-born people having babies, or is it because there are fewer UK-born people having babies?
Yeah, well, I think it's both of those, actually, Tom. And yeah, thanks for having me on. I think it's worth actually putting this in context, though. Of course, it's absolutely right that this has accelerated in recent years. But, even back in 2016, which is the previous data point we have for this, the figure was 35%, which is already very, very high. And if we look in particular at some of these places that have an extremely high percentage of foreign-born births, that's places like in London in particular, like Brent, Harrow, Newham, Redbridge, Tower Hamlets. These are all currently at around 80%, which is just an extraordinary number. And what we are also seeing, however, as we say, since that Boris wave of migration, is that there have been dramatic increases all around the country as well. So I'll give you just a few more of those. In Luton, we've had an increase in 10%, Leicester 12%, Wolverhampton, that started quite low, but it's gone up by a whole 19% more to 56%, similar in Middlesbrough and Liverpool. So this is happening all around the country, and it's a change that many of your viewers will be seeing taking place in their cities.
And as you say, it's not happening equally across the country. Some areas, vast majority, British-born mothers and fathers. In some areas, as you highlight, Harrow, Brent, Ealing, Westminster, basically no UK-born mothers having any babies, a very small proportion. Laurie, what does this mean for demographic change in this country then?
It means a lot. I think what's important to note is that if we go back to the reasoning for that Boris wave of migration that Boris Johnson and Priti Patel and others have put forward, it was that there were some labour market frictions around coming out of lockdown, of course, and that we needed people to come in and stack the shelves and maybe work in social care, and that's really quite a thin, economic justification, which actually isn't really all there in any case. But what we're actually seeing is that this is going to have a very long-term effect in terms of these people aren't just coming to stack a few shelves and then go home. They're actually having children. And so this is going to accelerate the decline of the white British as a share of the population, which...
Although, Laurie, we should be clear, this doesn't necessarily track onto just white or non-white. Because, of course, I'm thinking about someone who's had a lot of babies over the course of the last 3 or 4 years who was not born in this country, and that's Boris Johnson. He would be part of these statistics, though, wouldn't he? So do we need to be a little bit careful? Because there are some people that you and I would probably think are as British as, I don't know, trains or the internet. There's probably better analogies to what being British is. Bowler hats or a cup of tea.
Don't say fish and chips.
Don't say fish and chips.
Turkish, actually.
Right, OK.
Don't you know?
Anyway, we're going on a tangent. Should we not be slightly careful about some of this data? Because there are people who would technically be counted in this, who walking down the street, you wouldn't think they were anything other than English.
I suppose, but I think that there are obviously always some blurriness of the edges of these kinds of statistics. But nevertheless, the broad trend that they show is very concerning. And most of the people that have arrived in the Boris wave are not, in fact, Boris Johnson, people from places like Pakistan and Nigeria in particular. So I wouldn't say that's a major part of these statistics.
OK, well, Laurie Wastall, thank you very much indeed, Associate Editor at the Daily Sceptic. Yes, so the top nations of non-UK-born mothers: India, Pakistan, Nigeria, Romania, Bangladesh, Poland, Ghana, Afghanistan, Albania and Iraq. And I must say, India and Pakistan are quite a way ahead of the rest of the pack. So there you go.
Interesting. What do you make of it? gbnews.com/yoursay. But perhaps you'd like to travel to somewhere with a higher birth rate than the United Kingdom. If so, here's the travel weather.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
The heatwave continues across western and central parts of continental Europe, temperatures widely reaching the mid-30s, and this is likely to trigger some quite severe thunderstorms at times, particularly across Spain, northern parts of Italy, parts of Switzerland. This could bring some quite intense hail, frequent lightning and also some gusty winds. But across southern parts of Italy, parts of Greece, it should remain mostly settled. Plenty of intense sunshine continuing as we head into the weekend, and temperatures widely remaining in the mid-30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
It's hard, isn't it?
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and do stay with us, there's plenty more to come. Yes, we'll be discussing what exactly is going on in this video. Yes, I confronted some tube fare dodgers just yesterday. What happened?
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christies here.
I'm Michelle Tube, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Well, welcome back to Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Coming up to 10 to 2 is
It
the
is
time.
indeed. And a little video got sent to me yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
From a certain co-presenter here, Tom. He's been out and about in London again, getting into trouble, causing mischief. Or is he actually doing the job of a police officer?
Well, have a look at this.
Excuse me, mate, why did you just break the barrier? Why did you just break through the barrier? Do you think it's okay that you're not paying for your tube journey? Do you think it's okay you're not paying? Why do you think that people like me should pay but you shouldn't pay? Why didn't you pay for your tube journey? Why aren't you answering me? Why didn't you pay for your...
Why aren't you answering me.
Well, he wasn't answering that. It felt like I was chasing after a cabinet minister at one point, actually. It was like one of these doorstop things.
Isn't it?
But, you know, I've just seen so many people push through the barriers.
Sickening.
And every single time I see it, I'm like, ugh. I wish I could, you know, I tut or I think about it for the next, you know, however long. So I just thought, do you know what? Actually, I'm going to whip out my phone, I'm going to start filming, and I'm going to chase. It wasn't just him, it was also the guy next to him. I thought they were mates, but clearly they went in different directions. So it was just happenstance that two people at exactly the same time bashed through the barriers. But so blasé about it, and it happens every single day.
He couldn't care one iota. You know, he's not bothered. Just strutting there, just ignoring you. No shame at all.
No.
I mean, in this country, we don't cheat the system, you know? There are rules by which we must all play in order to live in a, you know, a decent society, a half-decent society.
The crazy thing is, well, I mean, after that, of course, I went back in, tapped on the barrier, paid and went down into the tube. And, of course, it was covered in graffiti. When I was there, it was absolutely riddled with all sorts of graffiti.
You need to clean that one next time.
And I thought I might as well scrub this one too. I mean, there are so many jobs that Transport for London and, indeed, the transportation network across the country should be doing.
Well, let's remind our viewers about this, because Tom did take it upon himself to go down to the Bakerloo line, which is one of the worst offenders of Transport for London. That's fine. And then he just went in with his mop. What, his brush? I don't know, some kind of disinfectant?
It was a sort of scrubby sponge. Like one that you'd use for cleaning up after cooking. But also some just over-the-counter graffiti spray. You can buy stuff called graffiti spray. Make sure it's non-toxic. And
anyway, it was Sunday morning, crack of dawn. He was there scrubbing our tubes clean. Meanwhile, you have some random bloke like that thinking that he can get away with not paying anything, and he can. He can get away with it. And what if everyone did that?
Well, exactly. I think the more people that get away with not paying, I mean, clearly the less cleaning goes on the tube as well, right? I mean, these things aren't unrelated.
I hate seeing it. I hate seeing it. And yes, we're showing you London because that's where we are, but, you know, around the country, this happens all the time. Train stations. You know, there are still train stations that actually function on, what's the word? Trust basis, where there aren't...
Good faith.
Good faith, trust.
But no, it is just such a...
Well, the rest of us are mugs.
It's such a thing where you think, am I a mug for paying my whatever fare, £2.60 or something to go down for a single tube? Am I a mug for doing this every single day when people just bash their way through the barriers and no, there is no consequence to doing it?
It's the same with some benefits, isn't it? You know, if you see your mate next door taking benefits when actually he hasn't really got a bad back, you might do the same. Because why not? You're a mug if you don't.
Well, that might be one of the discussions that we have in the next hour of this programme, because it does seem to be that there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people in this country who are claiming the highest rate of PIP, the bit with the mobility component attached, i.e. the bit that you can claim and you can swap for a free car, where the insurance is sorted by the state and everything else. You can get a free car, effectively, for being on PIP for being obese, but also, most extraordinarily, for being an alcoholic. Why are we giving alcoholics free cars?
Now, presumably those are alcoholics who are very much active.
Yes.
Alcoholics, because if you've gone through rehab and everything and sorted yourself out, then you presumably wouldn't require PIP, so therefore wouldn't require a Motability car.
But the numbers show there are more than 6,000 people who have an alcohol disorder, i.e. are alcoholics, and clearly are, as you say, practicing. Because otherwise, why would they need the disability payments?
Yeah.
But then they're being given the payments that deliver the car.
I mean, say it for what it is. It's total sham, that. Surely.
Absolutely bonkers. Well,
anyway.
Much more of that to come in the rest of today's show. And...
yes, Britain and France are preparing for this one-in, one-out deal that apparently could see channel migrants barred from claiming asylum in the UK. But how exactly is this going to work? And do you trust that it will do what it says on the tin? Plus...
yes, more on today's eventful, to say the very least, Prime Minister's questions. What of the position of the Chancellor? Well, she claims that she's sticking about, but we'll get that after the weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Any thundery showers soon easing away this afternoon, leaving a mostly dry evening and feeling a lot cooler and fresher compared to recent nights this week. But this afternoon, where we see the bulk of the showers, that's all due to this frontal system just moving away from the east and northeast of Scotland and England. So for a time still, yes, some heavy thundery showers soon easing away, and this should lead to a largely dry and clear night for most. But we'll soon see a return of the cloud and also some showery outbreaks just starting to move into the northwest, so pushing into western parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland through the early hours of the morning. But for many, a much cooler and fresher night to come, lows reaching around 8 degrees Celsius. Now, for many on Thursday, it should be a mostly dry and bright day, but it is going to be a very different story across northern areas. More clouds starting to push in from the west across Scotland, some showery outbreaks in particular across the west to start, eventually pushing their way eastwards. These could turn heavy at times. Fairly similar across Northern Ireland, but across the rest of England and Wales, a dry and bright and cooler start to the day. And this is where it should remain mostly settled through the morning and as we head into the afternoon. But we'll continue to see this unsettled weather push its way across Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps later just clipping some parts of northern England. And yes, some of these showers could be heavy at times, but it is going to feel a lot fresher in these areas. But elsewhere across central and southern parts, plenty of sunny spells, particularly as we head into the afternoon, and still feeling warm in the sunshine, highs reaching around 26 degrees Celsius. Through into the evening, we'll continue to see this north-south split in the weather, so unsettled across the north, cloud, outbreaks of showers, but across the south, it should remain mostly dry and settled. And we'll continue to see that theme on Friday, but the rain becoming more widespread on Saturday, but still remaining quite warm where we catch any sunshine.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Wednesday, the 2nd of July. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
This is the first Prime Minister in history to propose a bill to save money who ended up with a bill which costs money.
What won't help control the costs, and that is voting to keep the broken system.
Well, dramatic scenes in the House of Commons while the Prime Minister refuses to rule out further tax rises and insists that Rachel Reeves is safe in her job, but not on camera, because on camera he refused to back Rachel Reeves staying on until January, and that led to a tear rolling down the Chancellor's face.
Channel crackdown. A new one-in, one-out deal with France could see small boat migrants blocked from claiming asylum in Britain. But will this really stop the crossings or just shift the crisis elsewhere?
Is the government becoming the food police? Labour's new obesity crackdown could see restaurants forced to report what you order, all in the name of public health. Yes, tracking your calories for you. So is this smart policy or a step too far in the nanny state?
And should we ditch Sir Winston Churchill for diversity's sake? Yes, the Bank of England is considering scrapping historic figures like Winston Churchill from our banknotes in favour of a more modern image of Britain. OK, is this progress or pointless wokery? I think the latter.
And the King and Queen kick off Holyrood Week in Scotland. But with the royal train officially off the tracks, how exactly did they make the journey north?
Join me later for day 2 of Holyrood Week, where the King and Queen are going north of Edinburgh to the town of Kirkcaldy. More details shortly.
We've got quite a bit on our plate this afternoon, so we're going to take you straight to the headlines, or perhaps not.
Just first, I think it's worth noting that the cost of borrowing for the government shot up as soon as those tears were seen going down the Chancellor's face in the House of Commons. A really significant moment. Cost of borrowing for the government shooting up, but more of that, of course, after your headlines.
Tom, Emily, thank you very much, and good afternoon to you. 2 minutes past 2. Sir Keir Starmer has faced his first Prime Minister's questions since a dramatic Labour rebellion forced a welfare U-turn, giving Kemi Badenoch a chance to go on the attack earlier. The Conservative leader called it a humiliating climb down for the Prime Minister and accused Sir Keir Starmer of weakness.
After last night's humiliating U-turn, we know he cannot control his MPs. They're cheering now, but you signed the amendment. You signed the amendment. Over 100 people signed that reasoned amendment until the bill was completely gutted. He said that he would take the difficult decisions, but isn't the reality that he is too weak to get anything done?
Well, Sir Keir Starmer hit back, blaming the Conservatives for the state of the welfare system.
Broke it. And it's the same as the NHS. What did they do? They broke it. Same as the economy. What did they do? They broke it. They broke everything that they touched. And now she describes the broken system that we are trying to fix. We're fixing it. We're clearing up the mess that they left, just like we're clearing up the NHS and the economy.
In other news, murder squad detectives have passed new evidence to prosecutors, raising the prospect of further charges against child killer Lucy Letby. The Crown Prosecution Service is now reviewing that file, which relates to more baby deaths and collapses at hospitals where she worked. It comes as 3 former bosses at the Countess of Chester Hospital were arrested yesterday for suspected gross negligence manslaughter. Letby is already serving life terms for murdering and attempting to murder babies between 2015 and 16. Police say corporate manslaughter investigations into hospital leadership are ongoing. Matt Hancock is facing the COVID inquiry yet again today for what is expected to be his final appearance. He oversaw care services in England as more than 43,000 people died with COVID, many in the pandemic's early stages. One civil servant has called the scale of care home deaths a, quote, generational slaughter. For the next 5 weeks, the inquiry will hear from bereaved families, carers, unions and health providers. 343 small boat migrants arrived in UK waters on Tuesday. It brings the total for the year so far to now more than 20,000. In just 3 days, 1,800 migrants have made that illegal journey to the UK. A major fire that shut down Heathrow Airport was caused by a fault first detected 7 years ago, a new report has revealed. Moisture was found in 2018 inside a key component at the North Hyde substation, but maintenance was delayed and then cancelled. When the fault sparked a blaze in March, it led to 270,000 disrupted journeys. Ofgem has now launched an investigation into potential licence breaches by the National Grid. US President Donald Trump says Hamas has agreed to a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza, but at this stage, Israel has not confirmed that deal. Trump warns Hamas will only get worse if they don't take the deal. Meanwhile, Israel is continuing its military action with evacuations taking place in northern Gaza. And royal news for you. The Princess of Wales has spoken publicly today about her own cancer recovery during a visit to Colchester Hospital. Meeting volunteers and fellow cancer sufferers there, she reflected on the importance of rest and shared spaces during treatment. She was visiting the RHS Wellbeing Garden, which opened last year to support NHS staff, patients and visitors. Well, we can take a listen now to what she had to say at the hospital earlier.
Put on sort of brave-faced stoicism through treatment. Treatment's done. Yes. So I can crack on and get back to normal again, but actually that the phase afterwards is really, is a really difficult journey. You're not necessarily in the clinical team any longer, but you're not able to function normally at home as you perhaps once used to. And actually someone to help talk you through that, show you and guide you through that sort of phase that comes after treatment, I think is really valuable.
Those are the latest headlines for now. 60-second update in 30 minutes' time. Now, though, it's over to Westminster.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 7 minutes past 2, and Downing Street has claimed that Chancellor Rachel Reeves is going nowhere following an emotional appearance during Prime Minister's questions, which sparked speculation about the Chancellor's future.
Yes, the Treasury clarified that Reeves was visibly upset due to a personal matter, they say, not political pressures.
Well, the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, seized on the moment, accusing the Chancellor of appearing absolutely miserable during the session.
And, of course, let's remember this comes after a huge amount of political turbulence for the government. Last night, a significant climb down on its major welfare bill. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says Starmer has made a series of humiliating U-turns.
The fact is, Labour MPs are going on the record saying that the Chancellor is toast. And the reality is that she is a human shield for his incompetence. In January, he said that she would be in post till the next election. Will she really?
Well, he didn't say yes, did he, at that moment? But the spokesperson has since come out and said no, full confidence. She's not going anywhere.
It is worth asking the question, why does a spokesperson off camera, on behalf of the Prime Minister, say, yes, the Chancellor is safe in her job, but on camera, in front of a busy House of Commons, when he was given the opportunity to say she was safe in her job, he refused to make that call? Let's ask someone who was in the room. Christopher Hope, our political editor, can join us now live from Westminster. Christopher, I mean, it's all anyone's talking about. Not what the Prime Minister said, not what Kemi Badenoch said, but how the Chancellor looked.
That's right, Tom and Emily. Well, from terrible Tuesday last night to wobbly Wednesday. Now, the day started with the PM going to PMQs and kind of stumbling out of number 10 Downing Street. That was caught on camera. An hour later, the Chancellor appeared to be in tears. next door to the Prime Minister. Well, it took an hour between me asking her spokesman what on earth is going on for the spokesman to reply, to make very clear it was a personal matter and no further comment. But in that hour, as you were saying earlier, Tom, the markets, the bond yields, the cost of borrowing spiked because people are watching the position of the Chancellor because of what's been going on with last night's vote on benefits. The feeling now is the Chancellor okay? They're not saying any further than a personal matter. We're told here, which, as you expect, we're not going to get into. That's a personal matter. The Chancellor will be working out of Downing Street this afternoon. There's now speculation, not denied by either the Speaker's office or the Treasury, the Chancellor's team, there was some form of altercation between the Chancellor and Lindsay Hoyle, who's the Speaker of the House of Commons. One minister has told this to reporters, that she had an altercation with Lindsay just before PMQs. They had a row. I think he ended up apologising to her. I've gone to the Speaker's office, no comment. I've gone to the Treasury, no comment. This may go back to yesterday in the House of Commons, when the Speaker was urging this Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, to give briefer answers, and according to reports, she rolled her eyes and said, all right, when asked to give shorter answers on Tuesday. So it may be a continuation between the debate around her behaviour at the dispatch box yesterday and then now behind the Speaker's chair. But if she's upset, what I don't understand is why she then sat next door to the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, when all eyes are on the PM and the two people next door. And what happened was the failure of the Treasury or Number 10 to clear this up quickly meant the bond market spiked. As I say, terrible Tuesday yesterday, wobbly Wednesday for this government today.
Well, whatever it proves to have been that sparked her emotional appearance, there's quite a lot to be worried about at the moment for the Chancellor, because she's going to have to try and find this $5 billion from somewhere, and the Conservatives aren't letting this go either, are they? Kemi Badenoch's spokesperson saying we should find out what's going on, we should know what the personal matter is.
That's right, and they're not telling us. We are not being told by the Treasury. We've gone back to them saying, is it right that the Speaker made the Chancellor cry? They won't give us an answer on that. They're saying it's a personal matter and that's the end of it. The Speaker's office won't deny or confirm what the reports are. We are where we are, but no question. We had there the question that Kemi Badenoch put in, a fourth of the 6 questions. Will you guarantee that the Chancellor will be here in January next year? And he couldn't say that, and the PM said, I'm not sure you'll be here in January next year. That goes back because I asked the PM back in January this year, will this Chancellor be in place by the next election? It took him a day to say yes, and in that day, of course, it made all the headlines, that question, not surprisingly. And just finally, there were other questions from Kemi Badenoch in the PMQs, Tom and Emily. Will there be tax rises in the autumn to pay for the £5 billion black hole in the accounts caused by the hollowing out of that benefits legislation yesterday? No answer on that.
OK, well, Christopher Hope, thanks very much for joining us live from Westminster Hall there, just yards from where all the action happened.
So well, it's looking like it might be a bit of a stinker of an autumn budget for working people.
I just don't quite understand why, if there is a personal matter that has upset the Chancellor, why then the Prime Minister would, on that day of all of days, stand next to her and refuse to back her in her job. I mean, if someone is feeling wobbly due to a personal matter, is that the day that you, as their colleague, stick the knife in?
Well, to be generous, you could say that perhaps he didn't know or wasn't aware. But should we ask...
supposed to be a close team, aren't they?
Well, yes. Shall we ask political commentator Benedict Spence what he makes of it all? Benedict, thank you for joining us. Yeah, a hard watch, PMQs, this afternoon, and Number 10 saying personal matter, essentially, you know, stop asking us about this.
Yeah, I think the expression Rachel Reeves is going nowhere is both an unerringly accurate statement and also a rather cruel thing to say, given the circumstances and all of the speculation around her position. And I mean, the reaction of the bond market, I think, was actually rather telling of the precariousness, I think, that this government finds itself in right now. I mean, the fact of the matter is, what prompted the tears in the House of Commons almost doesn't matter, really, because, I mean, given the backdrop of everything that happened yesterday around the vote on welfare and the shifting emphasis that places on what little savings, if any, are left as a result of this sort of centrepiece of Keir Starmer's first year in office, all of the onus is being placed ever more on Rachel Reeves, who was off to a dreadful start as Chancellor anyway. More and more pressure is being placed on her to find savings to actually make the economy tick over within parameters that she has very little say over, and which most independent economists look at and go, if you stick to these, it's going to be impossible to do what it is you need to do. Most people, I think, were speculating that she wouldn't last much beyond the autumn statement anyway, before she becomes a sacrificial victim, effectively, for Sir Keir Starmer. This is all a dreadful situation that she is effectively being put in, and I think the fact that she went into the House of Commons today with the tears streaming down her face, and whatever the circumstances around it, are irrelevant. The fact that the Prime Minister did not have the empathy to pick up on A, the potential suffering of his own Chancellor, and B, the optics around that, I think shows you just how out of touch he is, not just with, the public in general, but even within members of his own team. He doesn't know how to portray things properly. He doesn't know how to package things properly. This is a Prime Minister who is already out on his ear almost, it seems, with his own party, given what's happened in the last 24 hours. The fact that they didn't see that this would be a bad look, so to speak. I mean, what does he do exactly? What is his role?
I mean, this is the most extraordinary thing of it all, isn't it? We're less than a year into this government. We're less than a year into this parliament. And the government can't govern. They make several policy decisions that they have to U-turn on again. And let's not forget, these aren't just sort of esoteric decisions that don't really matter in the great scheme of things. These are decisions on tax and spend that are the difference between hitting that limit of the fiscal rules and being under the limit of the fiscal rules. It's a bit like how the Americans sometimes bump into their debt ceiling. I mean, this is the sort of, number one, the lack of wiggle room that the Chancellor left for herself. Perhaps that is an argument that has caused some of these crises in the first place. But secondly, the scale of these rebellions on even the most minor fiscal consolidation measures really does put forward the question of how long can this government actually go on governing for?
I think that this is the key thing. As you say, 363 days into this administration, and actually it's already quite clear that this government isn't going to be able to do a lot of the heavy lifting that needs to be done. We have a top team in government that doesn't have the imagination, doesn't have the vision to see a way through any of the problems that it has inherited and is exacerbating. And it is propped up by a party that, given the behaviour of some of its MPs in the last couple of days, clearly they lack the maturity to understand what is required.
Well, Benedict, is that one of the big problems here for Keir Starmer, that even if he did, and of course he says that he's standing by her, even if he did want to get rid of her, there's no one necessarily ready to replace her? Is there a talent problem that's making this all the more tricky for everyone involved?
I think that there's a talent problem across politics in general. I think that for many reasons that we don't have time necessarily to get into, politics in Britain does not attract the best people, or at least it certainly doesn't retain them. And, I think Labour have already run into that problem. I suppose it's the main thing that's perhaps going to play in Starmer's favour. If people think that it's going to be hard to replace Rachel Reeves, how on earth do you think you're going to replace the Prime Minister? Is it really going to be Angie Rayner after a year? I mean, come on. That's not a sustainable thing. I think that's probably the only thing he's got going for him, which is that of the immature bunch that we have, he is still just about the most grown up of the grown-ups who are back in charge. But nonetheless, he is presiding over a government where his Chancellor is crying on the national stage in the chamber of the House of Commons. That doesn't speak to maturity very much, but that is the party that he is lumped with. That is his tribe, if you like. And that is sadly what we are going to have to try and follow our way.
Perhaps we could give Ed Miliband a shot at the big job. Perhaps we could give Ed Miliband a big shot, or who else is there?
Well,
Cooper. Should we try it?
I know. Well, there are all sorts. Apparently, Bridget Phillipson's keen to do it. Of course, Wes Streeting is a very ambitious cabinet minister. Or you could go for the sort of European model and put in the sort of ultimate technocrat of Pat McFadden.
Pat McFadden.
That would be the sort of Dutch or Italian model of doing it, wouldn't it?
I will say this much. If Bridget Phillipson becomes Prime Minister of this country, I will emigrate and I will never reproduce, because it would be cruel to bring children into a world run by that particular former Education Secretary.
You shouldn't say that. I think it was Yasmin Alibi-Brown who said that about Boris Johnson getting into power, and she stayed in the country. Benedict Spence, thank you. I have to leave it there. Political commentator Benedict Spence. I'm not sure if you're being entirely serious, so we'll let you off on that one. Benedict Spence there. So yes, there's a few issues at the moment to iron out.
Goodness me. Well, what a day. It doesn't just stop at financial issues, though, because the government believes it has a solution to the small boats crisis. Yes, there are proposed plans for a one-in, one-out return agreement with France, where migrants crossing the Channel could be prevented from claiming asylum in the UK being sent back to France.
Well, the deal would see France taking back migrants who've crossed illegally, while the UK agrees to accept a comparable number of asylum seekers from France. So a bit of a migrant swap.
Well, joining us now is the former Director General of Border Force, Tony Smith. Tony, I mean, it's a slightly innovative plan. Do you think it would work?
I'm really nervous about it, Tom, if I'm honest. I shouldn't be, I suppose, because I spent a lot of time in the Home Office myself trying to get the French to take asylum seekers back, and ever since then I've been saying that the best deal would be if we could get a safe third with France. But my worry about this is in the detail, Tom. What is the deal that we're doing with France? Who are these people that we're going to be taking in return? Are these people that aren't currently allowed into the UK? So are we opening the door to people that we don't have to? And in terms of the returns agreement, are we turning them back, taking them back on the ship straight away in the Channel, or are they coming ashore? If they are we going to detain them? How long, how many of them will go back? I've got so many questions swirling around in my head, Tom, about this, that my optimism, I'm afraid, has been severely dented. I suppose we need to see the detail, don't we, when the actual announcement comes out, but at the moment I'm not encouraged.
I mean, Tony, as the former Director General of Border Force, should you not be the type of person who's being consulted on all of this? I mean, if you've got all these questions, surely you could be there, trying to nail it down.
Well, I run my own border security company these days. So, we have been offering help to the Home Office if they want advice on options, because, many of people on my book's been around the block, including me, on a lot of this stuff before, and a lot of the narrative that's coming out. And I'm afraid some of the negotiations that are underway, I'm not entirely sure are going to stick. So, yes, I am very happy to help out if asked, but one would need to be invited into the tent, if you like, to help them. I mean, I think it is right that we're speaking to the French. I would say that. We've always been speaking to the French about these things. And in my time, we had a very good operational relationship with the French. But this is high politics, you see. The French have got enough asylum seekers of their own, more than enough. And so Macron has to sell this to his people. And he said, well, why would we start taking people back from the UK when we've got enough problems of our own? And the only thing he can sell from their point of view would be we're going to be exporting more people to the UK. And I'm really, really worried about our negotiating position and how good is our negotiating team, and are we getting all of the facts presenting to us? I suspect negotiations are still underway now, but my worry is, because there's so much desperation around this, isn't there, now in government about trying to get a grip of this, that we may sell out on a deal that we don't need to. That's my worry, and so I'm really quite nervous about what we're going to hear, but let's wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some controversial deals made by the government in recent months, so this one could be the next. Tony Smith, thank you very much indeed, former Director General of Border Force. Yeah, I mean, spinning this as, migrants could be barred from asylum if they arrive illegally in this country, OK, but then you're just swapping people anyway. And why would France take back the...
But if you were guaranteed to be popped back in France if you're on a small boat, then fewer people would start to come.
What happens with them when they go to France? They try again. They don't want to be in France, do they?
But if you had a system where 100% of people, because these boats don't actually meet the shore in the UK, all of the people that arrived for the last 2 years, all of the people that have arrived on small boats, the boats don't actually wash up on the beach. We pick them up at sea, and then the RNLI takes them to shore, and they disembark a British ship.
But do you end up with any less numbers?
If the ship was allowed to take them back to France, then people wouldn't come.
I don't know, it sounds like we should have stuck with the Rwanda scheme. Anyway, as the temperatures continue to soar, we've got the coolest cash prize of the summer to be won. It'll keep you cool, apparently. A totally tax-free £54,321 is up for grabs. Here's how to enter.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, experts are warning that lithium suppliers will not keep up with the demand for electric cars.
Yeah, researchers say domestic lithium production could grow as much by about 10 times what it currently is by 2030, but will still fall short of demand.
So this morning we're asking whether Labour's green car policy is unachievable.
This policy tells you everything you need to know about net zero. This isn't about giving people free choices about the technologies they want to use. This is about saying we're going to have mandatory targets. It's a sad indictment on our country if we've just normalised the government making these fundamental decisions for people's lives. The CEBR has warned that this policy might cost the country. That's rigid targets for battery electric vehicles, known as the ZEV mandate. 80% of all vehicles will have to be electric vehicles by 2030, rising to 100% by 2035. And that policy is expected to cost £400 billion to the UK economy. And of course, car makers as well have warned that this policy is not achievable.
The latest stats say 47% of vehicles sold in Britain are now EVs. We're halfway there after just 2 years of the electric mandate. We've another 5 years to go. It's speeding up. And this charge that lithium, we're going to have a shortage of lithium, is nonsense. What it says is that there may be the consumption of lithium is increasing, so the domestic production will not be sufficient, but there's plenty in the world.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 28 minutes past 2. Now, restaurants will be forced to tell the government what their customers eat, all as part of plans being drawn up by the government to tackle Britain's obesity crisis. But not just tell the government how much people eat, also there could be fines for restaurants that don't reduce the number of calories that people are consuming. Similar rules have just been brought in for supermarkets, which have to reduce shopping baskets by 100 calories, otherwise they're hit with fines.
I mean, that is crazy, but also the way you said restaurant made me feel like I was in Paris.
Absolument.
Restaurants say the proposals will lead to higher prices in restaurant chains, given the significant volumes of bureaucracy involved.
So is the government tackling obesity or turning the UK into a nanny state? Well, joining us now is the actor and body positivity influencer George Keywood and the head of health at the Institute for Public Policy Research, Sebastian Reeves. Sebastian, we're going to kick off with you. This seems like a very micromanaging kind of proposal from the government.
I think it actually seems like quite the opposite. I think what this policy does is it sets a broad framework for businesses and says that government expect some more action on obesity, and then lets businesses innovate to meet what the target that's been set for them. So
hang on, Sebastian. Sorry, I've got to come back. I've got to come back on that point. You're not letting businesses innovate if you say we're going to fine you if you don't cut the calories that people are buying and putting in their shopping basket or putting on their plate at a restaurant. I mean, it's the same policy that the last government applied to vehicle manufacturers. If you don't sell a certain proportion of electric vehicles, you get fined. We're now doing this for food. I mean, where does it stop?
I mean, in this case, we know that we need to get serious about obesity. If William Beveridge was sitting down today and writing a report about the big challenges that a modern Britain faces, tackling obesity would be front and centre. We know, based on research out this morning, that it's costing about £130 billion a year to deal with the effects of obesity. And we know that taking action on it is really important for so many of the things that we're trying to achieve in this country. Reducing pressure on the NHS, getting people back to work. There's so much of a case to do more about obesity.
Yeah.
And it really does require action on all fronts, and it requires getting retailers and getting food outlets really involved in finding a solution to this problem, which is costing us all in the long run.
OK, well, let's see what George Keywood, body positivity influencer, has to say about this. I mean, if I wanted to eat a lot, I could go to several restaurants in the same day. No one's stopping me from doing that, are they?
I mean, I think the whole thing's nonsense, to be completely frank with you. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, the impact of what the government's going to do to these companies is catastrophic. I mean, you know, these companies are already trying to pay their bills, pay their VAT bills. Do you think they've really got time to say, oh, actually, no, we can't give them that much food. We don't want to sell that much food. You're controlling way too much. You know, we're trying to tackle obesity, yes, but that is not the way to go about tackling obesity. It's an extreme move from a very, ridiculous government, to be completely honest with you. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. I mean, how much money are you wasting on coming up with these stupid ideas? You know, how much money are you wasting?
So what if you don't finish your plate? What if you don't finish your plate? Are they going to take that into account? What if I eat half my burger, Sebastian? Sebastian, what if I eat half my burger? Are they going to note that down?
I mean, George asked how much money were you wasting on coming up with ideas like this. I asked back, how much money were you wasting on picking up the pieces where we failed to do something about obesity? Like, it's literally in the tens, if not hundreds of billions of pounds every year. This looks like a policy change, which is really about saying, overall, to tackle the huge crisis we have with obesity really just requires quite small reductions in the grand scheme of things on calorie
Sebastian,
consumption.
what do you make about the idea that actually, of course, for 30 years, governments have grappled with what sort of regulations they should place on companies to try and make food more expensive if it's deemed to be unhealthy, or trying to nudge people into different directions. But for the first time now, we've actually got a drug that works, Ozempic, semaglutide, Wegovy, Manjaro, whatever you want to call it, that for the first time is actually making people skinnier. I mean, we don't need to force companies to sort of draw up lists of who's having what calories now. If someone wants to get skinnier, they can just get on the jab.
I mean, if we look at things like the access to weight loss medication, I think we are expecting some announcements in the coming days about expanding access to weight loss medications, but there are risks involved, and it comes at huge expense. I think the move to say...
There are also huge expenses in telling businesses how many calories they're allowed to sell.
Let's give George the last word here, George. So is there no... Let's ask George, are there any redeeming features to this policy for you, George?
I mean, I don't believe so. I mean, I'm on Mounjaro. I've lost 40 kilos and I've paid for it privately. You know, so, I mean, I didn't need the government's help for that. And I don't need them picking and choosing what I'm going to bloody eat on my plate either.
Do you feel better for for the weight loss. Do you feel better, George?
I do, massively. I feel a lot better in myself. I feel like I can do a lot more, and I strongly encourage the government to get behind that rather than policies like this.
All right. Okay, George, keyword, Sebastian Rees, a good head-to-head there. So there you go. I just think it's so I mean, seriously.
I would love to see the. I would love to see the evidence. I would love to see the evidence that these sort of mandates or taxes have ever reduced obesity anywhere they've been tried. They don't. We now actually have something that provably, by peer-reviewed survey, does reduce obesity.
40 kilos.
I mean, it's incredible. Why can't we just celebrate this miraculous technological innovation that has come about in the last few years?
I do worry, though, further down the line we might find out it's not all good. But anyway, you're willing to take the risk. Let's get on.
Should clarify, I'm not on the jab.
No, you're just naturally skinny. Anyway, the Bank of England is considering scrapping historic figures from our banknotes in favour of a more modern image of Britain. What might that modern image look like? Should we get to the news?
Very good afternoon. The top story at 2:30. Detectives have passed new evidence to prosecutors that could lead to further charges against Lucy Letby, the child killer nurse already convicted of 7 murders. It follows the arrest of 3 former bosses at the Countess of Chester Hospital. They're suspected of gross negligence manslaughter. Ofgem has opened an official investigation into the substation fire which caused a catastrophic power outage at Heathrow Airport. Reports found issues were first detected 7 years ago but not fixed, leading to chaos for over 270,000 passengers. 343 small boat migrants arrived in UK waters on Tuesday. It brings the total for the year so far to more than 20,000. In just 3 days, 1,800 migrants have made the illegal journey to the UK. And the Princess of Wales has spoken publicly about her own cancer recovery. During a visit to Colchester Hospital today, she reflected on the importance of rest and shared spaces during treatment. She was visiting the RHS Wellbeing Garden, which opened last year. Those are the headlines for now. More news with Aaron Armstrong at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After reaching 34.7 degrees Celsius yesterday, it is going to be a fresher feeling day for all, though we are expecting some heavy showers with a Met Office thunderstorm warning in force across northeastern parts of England. And it's all thanks to these frontal systems sweeping their way eastwards across eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern England, but also at times across the far southeast too, where once again we're expecting some heavy, possibly thundery showers as we head towards the afternoon. And there will be a mix of sunny spells and showers across Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, but for many areas it is going to be a dry and bright afternoon. Feeling a lot fresher, not quite as muggy, but still warm in the sunshine, highs reaching around 26 degrees Celsius. Then to finish off the day across Scotland, yes, we are still expecting plenty of showers, still plenty of cloud, particularly across eastern parts of Scotland, but turning a little brighter from the west as we progress through the evening. Similar across Northern Ireland, a mix of sunny spells and showers, but the heaviest of those showers across northeastern England should start to ease away, leaving a few more clearer skies to finish off this afternoon. And elsewhere across England and Wales, it should be fairly similar, largely dry and bright, and remaining dry through most of the night. Any showers across Scotland, once again, easing away and staying dry as we head through the early hours of the morning, but we will start to see a return of the clouds, some showery outbreaks just starting to move into western Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland. But for many, staying dry, and it's definitely not going to feel quite as muggy as it has done earlier in the week. Lows reaching around the high single figures, so a much fresher start to the day. And that leads us into mostly settled conditions. Once again, plenty of blue skies, plenty of sunny spells, and temperatures creeping into the mid-20s once again. So warm in any sunshine, but a different feel across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, a return of the cloud and the heavy blustery showers. And always feeling a little fresher here, temperatures widely in the mid-teens, but otherwise another warm and pleasant afternoon.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Motorists on the A720 eastbound between Millerhill and Old Craighall should expect delays due to a road traffic incident, so it is advisable to drive with caution and allow extra time for your journey. Additionally, due to crucial carriageway maintenance near the rail bridge in BTUC Coed, the A470 is closed in both directions, with diversions currently in place. On the trains, passengers face significant disruptions on the Avanti West Coast line between Stoke-on-Trent and Macclesfield, and there is no service at all on the Gatwick Express. For more travel updates, please head to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 20 to 3, and there were extraordinary scenes in the House of Commons today. Of course, last night, the government had to perform yet another humiliating U-turn and strip out all of the savings for the welfare bill that was supposed to save £5 billion, then it was down to £2 billion, and now it's going to save nothing. In fact, by one estimate by the Institute for Fiscal Studies, it will actually cost money now.
Yeah, and I think everyone noticed pretty quickly that Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, was not in a good state. Looking very upset indeed, looking like she hadn't slept for a few days or had been crying. And then she was pictured with a tear rolling down her face. Now, we don't know what exactly happened. There's some rumour about an altercation with the Speaker, Number 10, her spokesperson saying she's fine, others briefing the papers that she's fine too. But just the very fact of her appearing behind the Prime Minister after a car crash of an evening where there are huge implications for her job, her role, she will probably likely feel that she does not have the backing of her party with some of these decisions that she's trying to make to save money. And she's in an incredibly difficult position, regardless of the tears, regardless of the way she looked at PMQs, all of that, huge amounts of speculation over that. Park that incredibly difficult day to be the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Yeah, and of course, when the Prime Minister was asked point blank by the Leader of the Opposition, will he keep the Chancellor in her job by this time in January next year, he refused to answer. He couldn't answer. So naturally there's now speculation about whether the Chancellor will be going. The Treasury quick to say, no, not going anywhere. Yeah. The Prime Minister's official spokesperson after PMQs telling journalists in a briefing that the Chancellor is staying. But he wouldn't say that on camera. And I think that matters. That's to be read into.
He's done that before. He's done that before. Not said those key words in public, and then a little bit later on, the statement comes out saying, no, full confidence, full confidence. Now, if I was standing there in one of the hardest jobs, let's be frank, it's not a job that most people would want, although Rachel Reeves has wanted it from day dot, I think, before she was in nappies. I think she wanted to be Chancellor of the Exchequer. But you need your boss to stand by you on a day like that, particularly in the vicious world of politics, but hey-ho.
And I think it's likely she'll stay on because there's got to be this pretty painful budget in October or November. But once she has delivered that painful budget, with all the tax rises that it surely must now have in it, I think all of the incentives clearly are for the Prime Minister to then sack her and replace her with someone to do the non-difficult stuff or the less difficult stuff.
And she'll know there's a huge amount of anger out there, not least on the welfare stuff, obviously the farmers' taxes, the national insurance, the private schools, the whatever else, you name it, winter fuel payments, of course, and the mess around that. Yeah. She'll know that full well. So if she is feeling a little bit overwhelmed, I wouldn't blame her.
Yeah, you just know that whenever a Prime Minister has to say, I have full confidence in Minister X, that's because questions are being asked about Minister X.
I have full confidence in you.
Oh, God, that's the kiss of death. But we should move on to something a little lighter, because King Charles and Queen Camilla are in Edinburgh for a series of events to mark Holyrood Week. And our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, has this report.
Well, welcome to a very wet, cold and drizzly Edinburgh, a far cry from what the King and Queen were experiencing down south over the weekends and last week. But of course, the King and Queen here for Holyrood Week, the official week the sovereign spends in the capital city of Edinburgh. Their official residence, the Palace of Holyrood House, is behind me. Yesterday, they hosted a garden party. The King carried out an investiture and was accompanied by the Royal Company of Archers, the King's official ceremonial bodyguard here in Scotland. And for the first time, it contained 4 females. But today, the King and Queen are leaving Edinburgh to travel across the Firth of Forth to the town of Kirkcaldy, and they have visited the War Memorial, celebrating or commemorating 100 years of that specific War Memorial. They also unveiled a commemorative cairn, which is kind of a symbolic pile of stones, and met members of the local community while they were there as well. The King also then went to visit the art gallery in the town of Kirkcaldy, joined a community reception, meeting local charities, different organisations as well. Meanwhile, the Queen went to visit Maggie's Fife. Of course, Maggie's she is president of the organisation. It's a cancer charity, 24 different locations around the country, and particularly poignant for Her Majesty because, of course, her husband, the King, is still undergoing a weekly cycle of cancer treatment, having been diagnosed back in January of 2024. The Queen will also be making her way back here to Edinburgh this afternoon, where she will be hosting a reception inside the Palace of Holyrood for the Institute of Nursing, the Scotland's Institute, the Queen's Institute of Nursing, I should say. It was founded by Queen Victoria back in the 1880s with a personal donation of her, and it's all from her, and it's all about supporting local nurses and midwives as well. So that's what Her Majesty the Queen is up to. The King, we're expecting to carry out something else this afternoon as well. We're not sure if he's going to be meeting the First Minister of Scotland, John Swinney, but if we have any more details on that, we will bring that straight to you.
Fantastic stuff there, Cameron Walker, in a very rainy Edinburgh. So if you do want to head somewhere a little more sunny, away from that rain in Scotland perhaps, here's the forecast.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heatwave continues across western and central parts of continental Europe, temperatures widely reaching the mid-30s, and this is likely to trigger some quite severe thunderstorms at times, particularly across Spain, northern parts of Italy, parts of Switzerland. This could bring some quite intense hail, frequent lightning and also some gusty winds. But across southern parts of Italy, parts of Greece, it should remain mostly settled. Plenty of intense sunshine continuing as we head into the weekend, and temperatures widely remaining in the mid-30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and up next, the Bank of England is considering scrapping historic figures from our banknotes in favour of a more modern image of Britain. So is this progress or political correctness?
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christies tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christies tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 49 minutes past 2, and the Bank of England has been accused of wrong-headed wokery after revealing it could drop historical figures from banknotes to reflect modern diversity.
Out with the old, in with the new. The bank has not said when the new set of notes will be issued, but it identified 6 potential new themes.
So, should we be changing our historic notes, or indeed adding new themes or more diverse perspectives to our banknotes?
Yes, I think the themes are architecture and landmarks, arts, culture and sport, noteworthy events in history, technological innovations and nature. People who are alive other than the monarch will be excluded. Gender, ethnicity and disability should be taken into account.
OK, well, let's discuss this with the activist Imran Aitan. Imran, this is going to concern some people because, you know what, we've got some pretty strong historical figures who've been on these banknotes for a very long time. Why should they be changed?
I think we're looking at it from the complete wrong perspective. I think it's about going back to your roots, if I'm completely honest with you. I think the Bank of England has been woke since 1975. So 5 years after they started the modern version, they came with Florence Nightingale. She was famous, or the founder of modern nursing. She was famous for treating troops during the Crimean War. And another thing that people forget, she was a social reformer. She believed in equal access in terms of medicine, and she believed in improving living conditions in spite of your class and rank. Let's go. And then we had, hold on, Elizabeth Fry. She was a Quaker. She was on the bank of, she was on the bank £5 note. So we had Florence on the £10 note, and we had Elizabeth on the £5 note, all right? This is anywhere from 1975 up straight to 2016. So Elizabeth Fry, she's a Quaker. She believed in prison reform. She believed in social reform, and she believed in the abolition of the slave trade. So the reason why I had to give you that quick soliloquy, because I know you're going to run out of time, because I did slow you down. I do apologise earlier. But more of the tell
Yes, you were late.
I know, I do apologise. I don't know, this is why I'm speeding up. I do apologise, so thank you for my quick rant. But more of the tell is, I feel like you have to get back to your roots. Your roots are, you ended the slave trade. Say it with your chest. You put a Quaker.
This is an interesting take.
Hang on, let's be real though. We're not going to put William. If we put William Wilberforce on the banknote, to celebrate our ending of the slave trade, no one would say that's a diverse choice. That's an old white man that we've put on a banknote, and I'm sure people would be up in arms.
Those are two different categories. So what you're talking about is the abolition of the slave trade. So that's one category. And if you wanted to go down that route, I would argue some people, even if you might not think so, more people would probably agree, because at least we're getting closer to understanding your heritage, your roots, your ancestry. You did that. Say it with your chest. So even if you don't want to put Mary Seacole, a campaign that started from 2018 to 2019, a lovely lady, I've forgotten her name, but she did a campaign talking about, I think it was banknotes of colour. Yeah, banknotes of colour. This was way back in the day. People have been campaigning about having black people on notes. And even if you don't want to do that, because I appreciate that ethno-nationalism is a part of your culture. I appreciate that, because if I was in Africa, Tom, and you tried to tell me about what I need to put on my banknotes, I'm Nigerian, okay? Right, there are 54 countries in Africa. If you as a white man and you as a lovely, beautiful, pregnant lady right now came to me in my country in Africa and said, yo, I'm going to dictate this, I'm going to dictate that, you would have a problem with Oman, Aiton. So therefore, I won't be a hypocrite, and I will humble myself and say, I appreciate where you come from. I appreciate what it is that you are trying to do, so do not forget your roots, please.
Well, Iman, well, thank you very much. I'm not sure what I've taken from that. I've certainly taken something, taken a lot, as usual. Iman Aiton, activist, thank you very much indeed. Have a wonderful afternoon. So there you go.
Yeah. I think we should celebrate our abolition of the slave trade on banknotes. I think that would be a brilliant idea.
You can't be on one. You're a boring white man.
No, probably. But I mean, we could put some lovely boats on them. The navy.
Well, they're
ships
saying
that were
things like
diverted to
fish and
stop the trade.
chips. I'm not sure if that should
that'd
be on
terrible.
one.
Do you know what we could
It's
put
dumbing
on?
down, isn't
we
it?
could put a picture of you on one of the banknotes.
What,
I think
me?
someone might have made up. Oh, blimey! I don't think anyone would want to be using. No one would want to be using those notes. Well, that's time enough for afternoon. Good afternoon, Britain today. Up next, Martin Daubney.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Any thundery showers soon easing away this afternoon, leaving a mostly dry evening and feeling a lot cooler and fresher compared to recent nights this week. But this afternoon, where we see the bulk of the showers, that's all due to this frontal system just moving away from the east and northeast of Scotland and England. So for a time still, yes, some heavy thundery showers soon easing away, and this should lead to a largely dry and clear night for most. But we'll soon see a return of the cloud and also some showery outbreaks just starting to move into the northwest, so pushing into western parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland through the early hours of the morning. But for many, a much cooler and fresher night to come, lows reaching around 8 degrees Celsius. Now, for many on Thursday, it should be a mostly dry and bright day, but it is going to be a very different story across northern areas. More clouds starting to push in from the west across Scotland, some showery outbreaks in particular across the west to start, eventually pushing their way eastwards. These could turn heavy at times. Fairly similar across Northern Ireland, but across the rest of England and Wales, a dry and bright and cooler start to the day. And this is where it should remain mostly settled through the morning and as we head into the afternoon. But we'll continue to see this unsettled weather push its way across Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps later just clipping some parts of northern England. And yes, some of these showers could be heavy at times, but it is going to feel a lot fresher in these areas. But elsewhere across central and southern parts, plenty of sunny spells, particularly as we head into the afternoon, and still feeling warm in the sunshine, highs reaching around 26 degrees Celsius. Through into the evening, we'll continue to see this north-south split in the weather, so unsettled across the north, cloud, outbreaks of showers, but across the south, it should remain mostly dry and settled. And we'll continue to see that theme on Friday, but the rain becoming more widespread on Saturday, but still remaining quite warm where we catch any sunshine.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Dalby Show here on GB.